now integrated with some publisher systems as well as with Altmetric and Orcid. So what does this mean for users? How can you tell us how these different integrations come into play once a researcher has posted a data set on Figshare?
Yeah, so the publisher side of things, a lot of the publishers didn't have the infrastructure to deal with all of these digital files, and academia was one of the last places that I saw that you would be expected to download a video instead of just pushing play in the web browser. Um, so we accept any file format and we visualize them in the browser, and we work with several publishers are clients of ours now. Nature is a client, PLOS is a client, Wiley is a client, Taylor and Francis are a client. So we add this light touch infrastructure. So if the academics need to make their data available, they can upload it as supplemental information and we'll visualize it for them. So it looks nice too, and people can interrogate the data a bit easier. Um, so that's one side of things with obviously the publisher model. The other integrations we have that you mentioned, yeah, there's so much movement in this space at the moment. So things like we mark up all of our content for Google Scholar. All of the Altmetric companies track our content. So altmetric.com, Plum Analytics, and Impact Story all track Figshare DOIs. We are actually going to be pulling in all of the altmetric.com data. So those 3D dinosaur fossils I told you about before, we know that the LA Times has written about that. But we don't know whether the author necessarily knows that the LA Times have written about their work. And when you're trying to demonstrate the impact of your research, the idea that you can quantify it using these things is a lot easier to do using things like Altmetric. So this year we're pulling in all the Altmetric data onto the site. With Orcid, we were an Orcid launch partner. At the moment, the way it works is that you can do a manual push. So we were the first place where any non-traditional research outputs you could just push into your profile. You can sync with your Orcid profile and push. And I was actually at the Orcid meeting last Monday, the annual conference, and they said that they've just updated their API so that you'll be able to automatically sync. So every time you make something available on Figshare, it can automatically, the metadata can automatically be pushed to your Orcid profile, which is a really nice feature that we're going to try and implement in the coming weeks. We're very keen on the idea that we can do one or two things well, but if there's other systems that are doing things well, like DataSite for the DOIs, then we want to be a part of that. So we're built on top of our API, and we want to interoperate with as many different systems as possible to just be one part of an academic's workflow and not try and be the whole thing. If you have data you need to make available or digital research outputs, you come to Figshare because we're the best. If you need a standard profile for all of your research outputs, Orcid is a great system for that. So we're trying to do one thing well.
Researchers complain that they don't have time for any extras, and that is usually a fact. Research takes up all their time, and then there's looking for funding, writing their manuscripts, getting published. It's a whole long process, and I'm sure that's a factor that plays in their resistance to new things like this. So, if a researcher were to avail of all that Figshare has to offer, including these integrations, how much time and effort would it take? And what would be that process flow? So, what would the researcher have to do?
So yeah, as you say, that's a very important fact. The academics already have too much to do. They have so many papers to read. They have peer review to do. They have all these other things on top of their basic research, which is what they're paid to do. So we want to make that as easy as possible. We want to integrate into workflows as easy as possible. The idea that at the end of the day, you can just drag and drop your files into a desktop uploader. We have desktop uploaders for Mac, Windows, and Linux. And it uploads your files into the cloud. You can access them from home. You can also just add a little bit of metadata there because everything is kept private until you choose to or have to make it publicly available. But it's really good having those files available with a little bit of metadata, just spending 5 minutes at the end of your day giving things a title. So when you do come back, when you come to write that paper in 2 years and you're going back to look for files, you can actually easily find the files and your files aren't called use this one best to or things like this. They actually have some metadata around it, And it's but the one thing we want to do is make it as easy as possible and as lightweight as possible. So as well as getting the files in, there's other systems to get the files in. If you're using GitHub, we have a sync set up with GitHub, so you can pull your files directly in from there. We're going to be doing the same with Dropbox and Box. And then as a place, it kind of acts like an online lab notebook. So you always have access to your files. You can create these collaborative spaces so that it doesn't really interrupt the workflow that you have as a researcher. It just tries to nudge you into best practice. So in a year or so, when you're coming back to use these files or to publish these files, you can do so easily, and it only takes you a minute of your time, saves you time in the long run.